Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to a new video, and welcome to my hometown here in Moscow region, Aprelevka. Now today we're going to go and ride the brand new Ivolga 4 train. Now hopefully we're going to be able to catch it. I can already see it at the platform. Let's head on inside and get the newest train in all of Russia. So we're here at Aprelevka station, which is my home station. We actually have a shopping center right next door called Melodia, and we just have to go up the escalators and head up to the upstairs level and then head on down to the platform. This whole station was built brand new roughly 2 years ago now in preparation for the D4 to start and end its route right here. And then this whole building is all completely new. We now have 7 platforms that we can board trains on. This is the Narrow-Fominsk direction. So these trains can take you to the southwest of Moscow and then heading to Moscow this direction around about 45 minutes, and you'll be in the center of Moscow. It's really a pleasure to ride the train from my home station, Aprelevka now. Have a look at all of the new gates that we can pass through. So you've got quite a few different payment options as well. So you can even use your credit card. They've even got face pay as well. They've built new kiosks in the back as well. And then we just need to walk down to the platform and find our train. The only challenge I always have at my station is the signboard is all in Russian. Now when you actually get the train and then catch it towards Moscow, all the signs actually are in Russian and English. So it's just a matter of negotiating which is the right train and the right platform and the right departure time, and we're good. Once I'm on the train, I will explain a little bit more about the route we're going to take, but they do actually have a larger map right here, which actually includes the stations prior to Aprelevka, which is further in the southwest of Moscow, all the way down the bottom here. And then we're actually going to get on at Aprelevka station and ride it to the last station. And then actually eventually we'll come back and I'll get off and go about my way in Moscow today. The one thing that's very different with this station to how it was in the past is they've drastically overbuilt it, especially based on the population. I mean, would we ever possibly get 7 trains on all the platforms at the same time? I don't think so. I think they call it future-proofing, if that's the right word. Somebody let me know in the comments. Is it normal that they build such big train stations where you live? Now there is actually a train already at the platform we're heading down to, but we're wanting the one after this. So it looks like we've got to go down to platform 3 and 4. And it also tells us the D4 train and in the Moscow direction as well. So perfect. Now let's get down the escalators and patiently wait for our train to turn up. It's actually quite interesting because we're a little bit early from the departure time we need. There's actually a couple of the older models of train at the platform, and just arriving on the right-hand side is one of the more classic Russian trains. So what they're going to be doing over time is eventually replacing all the rolling stock on this D4 line, and soon enough we won't have to catch the older trains. They're perfectly fine. They're just a little bit dated compared to the newer Ivolga that we're going to be going on very soon. We actually have a chance for a couple of minutes to have a look at the previous iteration of the train right here, and let's go on and get off so we can wait for our train. But basically, these are trains that were built last year and the year before, and they're very nice trains. They've got that new smell to them as well. They're actually climate controlled. They've got USB sockets under the chairs for everybody, so you can charge your phones. They also have Wi-Fi in them, and they're very comfortable. And these are considered the old model now, and we're going to be on the newest train in Russia in only a few minutes' time. One of the differences with the new train, and I'll show that again in the future clips of this video, is traditional train cars have an entrance at the beginning and end of the train car, and the Ivolga 4 actually has a middle door, so you've actually got a chance to get off just that little bit quicker if you want to. This is a little bit of bonus footage to be able to actually show you the previous model of train, and then the one even before that, and then eventually the newest train. So I hope it comes out as an interesting video once it all ends up getting edited together. I never realized how interesting making videos about trains can be until you get to ride a few of them. And they've actually got a digital time board here as well. It's also got an SOS call button. And then it's even got USB sockets right there. And I'm pretty sure this might be wireless charging as well. I know at some of the other stations they've got a sticker for it. And then we're gonna wave goodbye to this train in a few seconds, and then we're going to wait patiently for our train to come to the same platform. And off it goes! So this is actually a really nice train to ride, but for a couple of years everyone's been waiting for the Ivolga 4 to come on to the Aprelevka line, or the D4 line. So as we wave goodbye to one generation of trains, we're going to be saying hello to the newest train in literally a few minutes. It's a long train too. Basically the whole platform was taken up by this one as it literally leaves on its way. Now with the new pattern of trains with the D4 line, the trains run much more frequently. So as little as 10 minutes between departures. So we'll say goodbye, and we're going to say hello to the D4 Ivolga train very soon. As I make my way back to the other end of the platform to get on the train, it's really very interesting to see all these different models of train at the same station. The only bad thing is I don't know the specific model numbers, and I'm sure there's something that I could quote that tells you which one is which. So we're going to be catching the 1:47 departure. We have 6 minutes till it leaves, and I'm going to walk down to almost the last carriage and then walk through the train and have a tour of it together. I think this is going to be very interesting and exciting for a lot of people. We're actually going to be traveling in the forward direction this way. I'm at the very back of the train, and have a look at it. How futuristic does it look? The Ivolga 4.0. Check that out right there. There's also the nameplate. Now let's get on, because it's going to leave in a couple of minutes. Very, very interesting. Actually, we've made it with a few minutes to spare. So at the beginning and end of the train, there is actually a bathroom, and I thought I'd give you a loo review. Walking on inside here, sink, mirror, soap, there's a hand dryer, there's also a change table for children or babies, and the toilet. And I think there's a couple of different call buttons, perhaps if you get stuck. Wow, how spacious is it? That's a really big bathroom. Let me know, everybody, where you live. Is your train bathroom looking anything like this. There's even a non-slip mat on the floor as well. There's even a toilet cleaner right there, toilet brush. Very interesting. I think I'm going to walk through the train from the very end and as far as we need to show all of the different features. There is actually a bike rack right here. Now they've got pictures on the floor, so I'm not getting confused. There's actually a space for people with wheelchairs and prams, which is very nice. There's even a seat for the mother to sit down on, or father. And then walking through, one of the unique features of this train is it has a middle set of doors. Traditionally, a lot of carriages have just a door on either end of the carriage, and this one actually has a middle door as well. Look how nice these seats look. Oh, very fancy. This purple and grey look. Now, if you're not aware of what happened going back quite a while ago, there was actually a public vote for people to choose what color they wanted the chairs and the interior to be, and you had a chance to actually select your favorite color, and then based on the popular vote, that was chosen. Now we're actually on the D4 line, of course. I think I'll end up saying that quite a few times. And then we're right here at the very end at Aprelevka, and then these are some of the stations coming up, and then the last station, Zheleznodorozhnaya, at the very other end of the line. Wow. Now this actually does have air conditioning and heating and air exchange. It's actually quite warm in here. Now it's actually a cold day outside, but it's actually quite warm. Now I've just noticed here on the screen they actually have the temperature in the salon, and then outside it says it's plus 17 outside. I don't know where they get that temperature from. It's probably more like about plus 10 or 12, but perhaps that is correct. Also in English and Russian as well. The next station is Pobeda station, which is not too far down the line from here, and all of the upcoming ones. It also tells you the local buses in Aprelevka, which you can catch when you get off the train. And super nice. Finally, the Ivolga 4 is on the D4 line, and we can get to ride it. Now there isn't too many people on the train or on this departure. Now at the moment the trains run from this station back towards Moscow about every 15 minutes. So a lot of people probably don't necessarily know that this is the new train. You can actually look it up and find out the actual car numbers, or the departure train number, if that's the right word. So futuristic. Such a difference to the older trains that are even on this line still, and they're going to slowly phase them out and introduce these only as the train on this line. Again, these overhead screens, super nice to know where you're going. There's also some video screens as well. Okay. So the lady's letting us know that we've got the next station coming up, and I'm fairly sure that the doors are closing. Now, again, these are very similar to what the Moscow Metro looks like, with these overhead screens by the door. So it's very informative of all the things that are actually on this train. I really hope you find this video interesting, and for me to actually be able to ride on the newest train in all of Russia that's in place on the Moscow train network. This is one of the first departures that I'm on actually today, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it either started yesterday or the day before, and at the moment there's only a few departures of this exact train, so I had to know which one to get on, and I just hope you find this interesting. One thing I will note is how quiet it is inside the cabin. And I think the glass windows and doors and the seals that they're using are improved over the previous models of trains. I just thought I'd just show you here by the doorway a couple of features. Now this may not be noticeable or important to a lot of people, but they've actually got plug sockets right here by the door. So if you've actually got a power brick or you want to charge something, you can. Or if you've actually got your cable, they've also got the USB sockets right there for charging. So if you want to stand up by the door, you've got a bit of a rest, and then you can actually charge your devices right there. As we get towards Aprelevka station, you can actually see now the whole line all the way across. Now about the first 10 or 12 stations, there's no metro connection. And then as we get towards Aminskaya, Minskaya, and Moscow City, you can then connect to the metro and to the other D trains, if that's the right word. Doesn't sound very Russian to say it that way. As we look back down the carriage, as one of the other trains goes flying by, we're just about to approach Aprelevka station. Now I'm not going to ride every station, but I'm going to ride a fair few of them to get to where I want to go to and actually enjoy this ride on the train. So these are some of the chairs right here. So they're forward and backward facing. So you can actually sit with a few friends or whoever randomly sits next to you. So the one thing I'll definitely point out as well is they've got these little benches on the side by the windows, and they've got wireless charging. So you can just rest your phone on it and charge it up right there. Super nice to have wireless charging if you haven't brought your cable or your plug with you. And then when you sit down at the seats, you can actually see they've also got USB plugs right here, and they've got Type-C plugs. So all of you Apple users, you've got a socket if you don't have the right cable with you, and they're actually on all of the seats throughout the whole train. So no matter where you sit down, you can charge your devices, and especially on the way home, maybe your phone's running low from using it all day, you can plug in and get some extra power and juice. Yeah, very nice to have both options of the plugs. I was hoping that they'd show you the speed of the train on these information boards, but they don't. They just tell you the time, the temperatures, the next stations. I mean, that's more than enough information, right? But I'd love to know how fast we're going. Yeah, all of these long distance trains have that. Perhaps it's a feature, they just don't have it up on the screen for us. As we get to another station, the difference also with these trains versus the other suburban trains on the Moscow train network is they're designed to act like a connection to the Moscow metro, and they have much shorter waiting times at the stations. And then you can hear the lady there telling us the next station exactly how they do it on the Moscow metro. So the idea is they're much more efficient, they're much quicker, they're not waiting at the stations like they did previously, and we can get to where we want to go to just that little bit faster. They do actually have a map of the whole Moscow region train lines, and these are all the suburban trains. So we started off just over here in Aprelevka, and then eventually the train will make its way towards Moscow, and it will take a circle around the outside of Moscow and then end up on the eastern side of Moscow. On the displays above the doors, it also tells you what carriage you're in as well, so you know which way to walk to the exit. Now this station actually has exits on both ends, but it's not a problem, but it even tells you which part of the train you're standing in when you walk out of the doors right here as it comes to the next station. Slowly, as we're making our way along the line, more and more people are getting on the train. So a lot of people will actually turn up at the platform and just catch the next train, knowing that they're running every 10 or 15 minutes. Perhaps some people actually searched out this train like I did, and they're enjoying the newest train in all of Russia. Now that we've gone a few stations, the actual temperature's cooled down a little bit inside the train, and it's normalized a little, which is nice. It was a little bit warm when I first got in, but I think that's from the time that it was waiting at the platform. So it's just nice and comfortable in here, and nice and quiet. Apart from me talking, it's very quiet. And of course you can still hear the train tracks, so it's not a problem, but there's just such a difference in this journey compared to how it was on the old trains before now. As we make a few kind of left and right curved turns, I've got to hold on to the handrails as much as possible. This particular train, the Ivolga 4, of course, is the newest train in Russia and the newest train in Moscow. They're actually built and assembled in Russia, in Tver. Now that's not Moscow, it's a little bit of a distance from here. And the whole train is 97% locally manufactured. So there's only 3% of this train that isn't from Russia. I wonder which 3% they are. Maybe it's the handles, maybe it's the do not smoke sticker. If someone knows what those 3% are, let me know in the comments. Now I'm actually still walking through the train from one end to the other, so I thought I'd just do one solid walkthrough. There's a few more people now as we keep heading towards Moscow and to the final stop. Hello! Hello. A lot of my subscribers, yourself watching, have been asking me for a long time to come and make a video on the D4 line. And finally, because we've got the brand new train, I've got to come and make this video for you and enjoy the train and enjoy this journey into Moscow. The other important thing about catching this train is you can use the same Troika card, which is used on the Moscow Metro. And if you're riding it between the Moscow zones, it's the exact same price, 54 rubles. So if you want to catch it from one of the stations inside Moscow and then transfer to the Metro, you don't pay a difference when you do the transfer. It's the same price. And if you're outside the zone, which is where we actually got on, it's only 71 rubles. And then I can still connect to the Metro, or I can go to other trains. I can even go to ferries as well. As we pass through the square of 3 stations, it's very sunny out the window. And one of the very beautiful buildings right here. A little bit hard to get nice footage out the window. You can actually see the station and park right here as we go literally through the buildings. It feels like, how close is that? And then we head on to the next station from here. We're here at Kurskaya station. I was having a look at some of the construction going on, and this tunnels, I think this might be future railway tunnels, but just the sheer complexity of what they're doing and building here is just phenomenal. And the fact that this D4 train literally passes through these stations that were already existing here on the Moscow train network. As we're making the journey from Aprelevka to the other end of the line, it's super interesting, all the people that are on the train. I've actually met quite a few subscribers to the channel as well, and I think a lot of people looked up this exact train and made sure that they were going to be able to catch it, because so many people are taking photos and filming with their phone videos, and just a lot of people just enjoying the train journey more than it being a chore to catch a train to or from work or school or whatever you need to do. So it's just so nice to see people enjoying catching a train. I finally made it to the end of the train. Now I did stop a few times and chat to some people and enjoy the view. And there's actually a couple of people using the bike racks right here, which is super nice. So you can actually ride to another part of Moscow, maybe go to a park, and then get the train home and put your bike back in the cupboard. So I've actually not caught the train the whole way to the other end of the line. So quite a lot of the stations coming up now are all new to me. So it's really interesting just to look out the window and enjoy the view and look at some of the other parts of Moscow that you pretty much don't notice when you're on the metro underground. I just noticed on these overhead screens also for the next station, they've actually got a point of interest there as well, which is one of the churches that'll be nearby where you get off the train. So they've really put some extra effort into these maps. You can see now how far we've come from Aprelevka at one end. As we approach the other end of the line, this next station's actually got 3 train connecting lines that you can change to 2 metro lines and then 1 overland train called the Moscow Central Circle. So there's a lot of chances for you to make connections to other transport routes catching the D4. So if you are wondering why there's not that many people on the train, today is actually Saturday lunchtime. So there's going to be less people generally catching the trains than on a working day. And then also on this line at the moment, you can get a train about every 12 to 15 minutes. So you don't actually have to wait long if you've missed one and you catch the next one. They are trying to reduce the waiting time between suburban trains like this to under 10 minutes. So if you are watching this far into the video and you enjoy train content or transport content, let me know in the comments. I can certainly come and ride different trains and make a review if that's what this is turning out to be, and just give you my opinion of catching trains in Russia. So definitely let me know in the comments if this is the sort of content you like watching on my channel. I thought I'd show you the test of the wireless charging on my phone right here. So literally I just have to put it down onto the panel and straight away the wireless charging comes up and it's charging away for me. How nice is that? As the view out the window changes, every station we go by, it's hard to not look out and see these apartment buildings. Pretty much out of every window you're going to see apartments in Moscow and Moscow region, and just the amount of new buildings is just staggering to see. There's actually people just there as we went past who were taking photos of the train going by the local area where they live. So the entire length of the route that we're taking is 86 kilometers from Aprelevka, where we started, to the last end station. And just think about this for a minute. The cost of this trip was 71 rubles from one end to the other, 86 kilometers. Now, if you actually rode it inside the center of Moscow, you'd only have paid for your normal metro ride, which is still so cheap. It's only 54 rubles. So less than $1, and you can ride the newest train in all of Russia. How nice is that? We're almost at the end of the line now, and we've just got 3 more stations to go, and we'll actually be at the very end of the D4. And again, you can see one of the photos of the next station, I think, where you can get off and go and have a look at a hospital and a church. It's pretty cool. It's got like some tourist information at the same time. Who would have thought that they'd put hospitals on there as a point of interest? Maybe it's a historical hospital. It really is nice and quiet on this train now. It's probably hard to get that perspective across watching a video, you know, just with my regular microphone as I'm talking to. Just the older trains had such a noise to them, that very traditional clanging of the wheels on the tracks. And now on these trains, it's just such a different feeling, like you're in some kind of modern vehicle that's just not feeling like you're on a train at all. You know, it's just such a different experience from catching the older, let's call it traditional Russian trains or some of the Soviet trains, and then now to come on something that's a 2024 brand new train. So we finally reached the last station. So what I'm going to do from here is do some videoing of the station and the train, and then I'm going to get on the train and go back, and then eventually get off at the station that I want to go to in Moscow to film some more videos. Going off on another adventure, as they say. And it's super interesting. There's lots of people who rode the train till the last station, and they're actually train fans. Let me know what the name is for people who are train fanatics. Is there a certain word that I can maybe call myself or call everybody else that's here? Because pretty much nobody's leaving the station, and everybody's come to look at the, well, what will be the front of the train on the way back, but it was the back of the train on the way here. Absolutely brand new, fresh. So this is the third day of riding this train. And if you remember back at the start of the video, this was actually the door that I got on. And you can actually see here a little bit closer now. We've got a bit more time. This is the production plate. So only 26th of December 2023. Maximum speed 160 kilometers an hour. Now I'm a bit curious if it gets up to that speed or not. There probably isn't really enough distances between the stations for it to get up to that speed. And I think the driver is coming now for the trip back to the other end of the line. That should be interesting. There's also the cleaning crew here as well. So they actually have cleaners on board while it's in motion. Then some come on at the start and end of the route as well. Just like me, all of these guys have come to get photos of the train and get as close as possible to it, which is really nice. What's very interesting too is all of the train fans that I'm seeing are all students and young guys. You know, these aren't maybe your traditional train fans, but there's definitely a big following in Russia, particularly when new trains go on the network, to get up close with them and literally inspect them inside and out. And even you'll see here, you know, being able to get a photo in the cabin as well if possible. Hopefully the drivers are nice, you know, while there's a bit of a break between the trips. It's my turn to get as close as possible to the driver and into the cabin. It looks like he's setting up all of the functions for the return trip. It's the same driver that's from the trip we finished. He's literally walked the length of the train, and he's got in and he's preparing for us to leave back to the very other end, back in Aprelevka. I'll actually get off about halfway along the route now. So it's just so interesting to see this up close and get a chance to ride it. So just in case I got the name of the last station wrong, Zheleznodorozhnaya, I think is the best way I can say it. So if I've got it wrong, you can correct me in the comments. But this is the last station on the D4. And then where I live is the very first station, Aprelevka, right there, 86 kilometers from where I'm standing right now. As we leave the first station on the reverse route, the actual train's got quite a lot more people on it now. Now I already know from catching this D4 train in the past that a lot more people ride it from the opposite end, from the eastern part of Moscow back into the center. And I'd say the train is even as much as half full. Just walking through a couple of the carriages. When I originally got on it in Aprelevka, there was literally just a few people. Now I wonder again if everybody knows that this is the new train on this route, or if they just happen to be catching it at this time of the day. Looks like it's somebody's birthday.
Yeah.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. It's me.
Oh, 21?
Yeah, 22.
Oh, 20, oh really? That was lucky. Happy birthday. And you got to come on a train for your birthday?
Yeah.
That was your dream?
One station.
Oh, just one station?
Yes.
Oh, and then you go home now and... Okay, no worries. The only important thing for me to do now is make sure I don't miss my station and get off at the right spot. Have a look. Looks like somebody's taking part of their car with them on the train. I think that it would be only in Russia we'd see that, where you'd take your car on the train with you, or at least one part of it. Maybe he bought it from somebody online and went to pick it up from their house. I wonder what model of car it was. I've got a few more stations to go till I get to the stop I'm going to get off at. And I think the one thing that's interesting catching trains in Russia, I think there's a fascination with looking at the old trains, like there's one next to me here, and then riding the brand new ones. And I think you're never too old to ride a train, whether you're a young child and you're going with your parents or family, or you're like me, just going for a ride on my own, or you're retired and perhaps it was always a thing that you would love trains. And particularly on a day like today, it's beautiful weather outside. Take a trip through Moscow. I think there's a smile on almost everybody's face when I look around. Everyone's enjoying this trip on the D4 Ivolga 4 train. As the train gets a little bit closer to the center of Moscow, the stations that we're approaching now have a lot of connections with the different metro lines, and very quickly, from a few minutes ago when the train was pretty much full, there is now hardly anybody on it. A lot of people caught it from the beginning stations where we started at the opposite end, and then as soon as we reach the metro station connections, everybody gets off and then goes about their way in Moscow on the metro. It's just super interesting, the dynamic of everybody that was on the train, and then now it's almost empty again. I really should have been filming a lot more things out the window, and we're on the D4, and then this is the D3 right here, and we're actually just going past, I think just a little bit faster. And how cool is that to see the previous iteration of this train, and we're actually on the newest one. Wow. And we can see now that we're getting very close to the center of Moscow. You can see the skyscrapers of Moscow city. Now I've got 2 stations until I get off and pretty much get to the end of the video. So if you're watching till the end, thank you so much. It's really been a very cool trip. Now there's obviously a lot of train infrastructure as I'm traveling along. There's just a few spots where you just get that very beautiful view, and unobstructed view, I think is the right word, where you can just see the skyscrapers and then a lot of the older buildings below it. It's such a contrast when you see the skyscrapers, and then off to the left here, then you can see all of the more traditional Russian buildings. You can even see one of the Seven Sisters off in the distance as well. Wow. Check it out as we go right by the buildings. One of my very few fun facts as we're taking the D4. This is called Moscow City Station. And of course, we're right here by Moscow City. But this was actually called Testovskaya Station, and they only changed it very recently to better align it with where you actually get off, and you can walk straight across to all the skyscrapers off in the distance. As I get off at my station, and Ivolga 4 goes on its way all the way back to my house, to Aprelevka. What a journey. Now I'm going to swing around and we're going to catch the tail end of it as it leaves the station where I am here. See you later, D4. I'll see you on another trip. As I make my way out of the station, this is actually one of the new stations that they remodeled and rebuilt for the D4. They're such nice stations, especially for a suburban train station. Now, today has been really nice. Now, I've been wanting to go on this train since I knew it was coming to the D4 line. And of course, I live at the first or last stop at Aprelevka, so I had to make the video as well. So I really hope you've enjoyed it. I mean, you can see I'm happy from making the video and smiling and even seeing people's faces as I've been, you know, walking up and down the train so many times. It's just very interesting in Moscow when you get a chance to come and ride trains on the first day, or even trams or the electric river tram. I did that also on the second day it opened. You know, there's just a different feeling for everybody, you know. There's so many people that came out, especially the last couple of days, to ride this new train and be the first to ride it as well and to experience it, you know, on its first few runs up and down the line here. If you really like the video, give it a thumbs up. That would be really nice. If you want to post a comment, let me know what you think. Do you live in Moscow? Are you going to come and ride the D4? Maybe you live somewhere else in the world and you have an interest in trains, or you're just watching Traveling with Russell. On my line, on the train where I live, how fortunate am I to have the newest train in Russia on the line where I live. I'm just, you know, I've been waiting a few years for it, of course, but today was the day I got to make the video. If you want to follow me on Telegram, my channel will come up right here. Very easy if you want to check out my day-to-day goings on. I posted a few photos from today as well. And if you want to check out an old video on the channel, click this link right here. There'll be an old video that you might have haven't watched before, and you can watch that right now. Thanks everybody. I'm off on another adventure. Bye.